So startups getting shut down obviously happens due to multiple reasons, right? I think ranging from lack of the right product that people really want to not having the right team in place. Timing is a problem obviously a lot of times, right? A lot of companies have been far ahead of their time. Or it could be as simple as just not having enough money to do that, right? So mortality is always there, and I think most founders know it even before starting up. But what's I think obviously much more notable is that of the remaining 20% that you're talking about, right? They go on to create massive companies which actually capitalize on the changing consumer behavior and creating products that actually last for a lifetime. And I think that's the endeavor for anyone who's actually starting up and trying to build a company.
Rohit, if I talk about your sector, what has been the three defining trends in your sector which is shaping the sector itself?
Right. So, see, we operate in the fintech sector, right? And I think it's been a phenomenal last 5 to 10 years for the sector as a whole. So, in terms of the trends, if I talk about, the biggest one is I think how the entire ecosystem has been thriving and evolving, right? Uh, Both because of the macro as well as the government initiatives, right? So, on the macro side, if you see, in the last 10 years, we have seen explosion of smartphones, internet, digitization because of UPI and other initiatives, right? So what has that enabled us to do is it has increased the awareness of financial services, not to just say an urban tier 1 guy, but a tier 4 guy, maybe a small shopkeeper who's sitting there, he's also accessing same amount of information as a tier 1 guy, right? About the world, about what's happening around the world. These guys are actually shopping from the same places, they are ordering from the same places. So now, which is the next natural question is, can they avail financial services in the same democratized manner? And that is something which is possible today, wasn't earlier, right? So you can reach to these people from anywhere with obviously very great quality products. So one is the awareness has increased, the scalability has increased. The second thing is how the government initiatives has obviously brought about the framework for companies to build on top of it, right? So that is also helping us build data at scale. For instance, UPI, right? The way UPI has grown, that's phenomenal, and now you've got tons of this data available which can actually be used to underwrite the underserved segments. Same way what the government is doing with account aggregator, OCAN, ONDC, ULI, like all of these are very phenomenal frameworks which will help us democratize finance, right? So that's obviously a very strong macro trend. The second thing that we are also seeing now is, especially as the sector is scaled, how the regulator has come in and tried to give a much more clarity in terms of how the sector should operate, right? So that obviously defines the do's and don'ts of how do you operate. And then that gives you obviously a sort of a canvas on which you can build and I think create sustainable companies, which is obviously the most important thing. It also relates to your first question, right? How do you reduce the mortality of startup? So especially for the sector like a fintech one, if you make sure you are following the regulation and compliances correctly, if you are capitalizing on the right product for your customer base, then definitely you can create massive companies in the country. And I think the third and the last thing is obviously how do you continuously innovate on products, capitalizing on this data flows, and obviously what the regulatory environment is. I think that can enable you to go, I think, very, very deep. And now I think we are seeing that trend continuously increasing only. So we are very bullish.
Including these three trends which you mentioned, if I talk about the performance of your company, how has been the performance in last quarter and particularly in the last financial year?
Right, so since the performance has been phenomenal, we have continued to see ever increasing scale and I think demand from the customers. So today our app has now crossed 30 million users coming onto our app for accessing these financial services. In fact, last year was a milestone one wherein we scaled significantly. Now we have clocked over 250 CR in terms of revenue and we became a profitable entity as well. So that was obviously a good milestone, and from here we see a clear path to scale this meaningfully over the next few years to make a I think pretty loved and I think very sort of customer focused company in the fintech space.
Thank you so much, Rohit, for your time.
Thank you. That's fine.